and everyone's calling him the next Messi. But what if all this hype is actually holding him back? The pressure, the comparisons, the sky-high expectations, it could crush even the most talented teen. Today, we reveal what a true Barcelona legend thinks about Yamal's future and why this young prodigy might just redefine greatness on his own terms. Stick around, because what happens next might shock you. We'll explain everything in this video, step by step, don't skip it. Listen to this. Barcelona's football world is buzzing again, the spotlight blazing right onto a young phenomenon who's lighting up the pitch like a fireworks show in the Catalan night, Lamine Yamal. And today, the big question smashing through every fan debate, every newsroom, every late night Barca argument is simple. Is this wonder kid really the next Messi? And just when the noise reached its peak, a true Barcelona legend stepped in to settle the storm once and for all. And trust me, the statement has sent shockwaves across Europe. Because you can feel it, the pressure, the expectations, the weight of a club's legacy resting on the shoulders of a teenager who plays with the swagger of a seasoned superstar. Every touch, every dribble, every cut inside sends defenders slipping like they stepped on ice. The crowd rises, the cameras zoom in, and suddenly the whole stadium feels like a time machine, taking fans back to the early days of La Pulga himself. But today's story isn't just about talent, it's about the drama behind the headlines. Rumours spinning, comparisons flying, fans chanting, pundits shouting. It's a whirlwind that only Barcelona can produce. And right in the middle of it stands the legend who's seen it all, worn the crest with pride, lifted trophies, lived the pressure, and survived the chaos of expectations. He's looked Yamal straight through the hype and delivered his verdict. Bold and crystal clear. No sugarcoating, no dancing around the topic. This wasn't just a comment, it was a message to the world. A reminder that Messi wasn't created overnight, that greatness isn't photocopied, that Barca's magic isn't about clones, but about evolution, growth, identity, and heart. And oh, Yamal has heart. The kid is tearing through the narrative like he tears through defensive lines. From La Masia's polished floors to the roar of Montjuic, he's already rewriting chapters with confidence far beyond his age. The struggles, they were there. The pressure, crushing. The hype, sky high. But the response, pure brilliance. Week after week, he delivers moments that scream, promise moments that whisper destiny. You can almost feel the future trembling at his feet. And that's why today's statement hits so hard. It isn't denying his potential. It isn't pushing him down. It's lifting him, freeing him, letting him be Yamal, not Messi 2, not a copy, but a rising star, forging his own legend in the blue and red galaxy. Because Barcelona doesn't need another Messi. Barcelona needs the next great chapter. And the way this kid is playing, that chapter might already be writing itself in golden ink. So buckle up, because if this is what Yamal looks like now, imagine him in a few seasons. Imagine the dribbles, the goals, the assists, the moments that make you leap off your seat screaming in disbelief. The legend has spoken, the debate rages on, and the world is watching as Barcelona's newest gem keeps dazzling, keeps surprising, keeps proving why the question even exists in the first place. The future is bright. The future is bold, and the future might just wear the number of a boy who refuses to be compared because he's too busy creating greatness of his own. Barcelona legend clarifies that Yamal shouldn't be compared to Messi but should build his own legacy, and this statement comes with a depth that goes far beyond a simple opinion because it reflects years of experience, countless battles on the pitch, and a first-hand understanding of what it means to carry the weight of Barcelona's history. When a player who has lived through the Messi era steps forward to speak the entire football world, listens, because he's not just commenting from the outside, he's speaking as someone who has witnessed the rise of a once-in-a-century phenomenon, felt the pressure of wearing the crest, and knows exactly how dangerous these comparisons can be for a young player. His words are not meant to silence excitement, but to protect a teenager who is stepping into one of the most demanding roles in world football. He knows that calling someone the next Messi often sounds like a compliment, but in reality, it becomes a shadow that follows the player everywhere they go. Every missed pass becomes a talking point, every game becomes a test, and every mistake becomes magnified as if the player is supposed to reproduce the magic of a legend who redefined the sport itself. That is why he insists the world should let Yamal grow at his own pace, experience his own evolution, and craft his own identity without being squeezed into a pre-written storyline. This insight also reveals the emotional connection former Barcelona players feel with Messi's legacy, understanding that there will never be a second version of him, not because others aren't talented, but because Messi's journey was unique, built over years of challenges, breakthroughs, frustrations, and brilliance that cannot be duplicated. Suggesting someone is the next Messi not only ignores Messi's irreplaceable impact, but also dismisses the potential of the new player to offer something different, something fresh, something revolutionary in their own way. The legend knows that Barcelona's greatness was never about producing copies. It was about nurturing authentic talent, players who bring their own style, their own personality, their own magic to the pitch. And with Yamal, the potential is unmistakable. The flair, the composure, the creativity, the fearlessness, all of it signals a player destined for greatness, but not greatness defined by Messi's shadow. So when this Barcelona icon says Yamal must not be compared, he's saying it with a protective tone, a teacher's wisdom, and a veteran's memory of watching so many promising players crumble under unrealistic expectations. He wants the world to admire Yamal, not for who he might replicate, but for who he is becoming. His message is a call for patience, for appreciation, for perspective, reminding everyone that legends are not born from comparison but from authenticity. It's also a reminder that the Barcelona identity has always been built on individuality, each star adding their own chapter, their own rhythm, their own spark to the club's story. And in Yamal's case, the legend sees a future worth guarding, a path that shouldn't be derailed by unnecessary parallels, a journey that deserves the space to unfold naturally, beautifully, and entirely on its own. Yamal's rise from La Masia showcases extraordinary talent and mental strength at a young age. And what makes this journey even more remarkable is how naturally he has adapted to levels that usually take years for young prospects to understand. From the moment he stepped onto the training pitches of La Masia, coaches noticed more than just technical brilliance. They noticed composure, intelligence, and a confidence that looked far beyond his age. While many youngsters struggle with the pressure of representing Barcelona's academy, a place known for filtering only the highest caliber players, Yamal seemed to thrive under it. Every session, every drill, every test became another step in his rapid evolution, and instead of being overwhelmed by expectations, he embraced them as fuel to push harder. That's the kind of mentality that sets apart a regular talent from a generational one, and it's exactly why the football world can't take its eyes off him. But the technical side of his game is only half the story. What makes his rise so impressive is the emotional maturity he carries, something rarely seen in players who are still teenagers. He plays with freedom but not recklessness, with flair but not irresponsibility. It's as if he already understands the balance needed to survive at the elite level. Many players entering senior football have the skill to dazzle, but they lack the patience, the calmness, or the decision-making needed to consistently impact matches. Yamal, however, already reads the game like someone who has spent years studying top-flight football. He knows when to accelerate, when to slow down, when to dribble, and when to release the ball. His instincts show a level of game reading that can't simply be taught. It's the result of natural vision combined with fearless ambition. And then there's the part the cameras don't capture, the relentless work behind the scenes. Every breakthrough player has a story built on early mornings, late night reflections, quiet frustrations, small improvements, and an inner fire to keep going no matter how intimidating the next challenge looks. Yamal's coaches talk about his dedication, how he listens, learns, adjusts, and returns stronger the next day. In an environment as competitive as La Masia, where every player dreams of the first team, only the mentally strongest survive the constant competition. That alone speaks volumes about his character. Because surviving at La Masia is not just about talent, it's about discipline, humility, and resilience. His early introduction to Barcelona's senior team didn't happen by accident or marketing pressure. It happened because his performances demanded it. When a teenager consistently looks like the most composed player on the pitch, the club knows it has something rare. And as he transitioned to facing older, stronger, more experienced defenders, the mental strength he built at La Masia became his greatest asset. He didn't shy away, didn't freeze, didn't play it safe. Instead, he stepped up as if he belonged, proving to everyone that this wasn't a temporary flash of brilliance, but the natural rise of a player whose future is glowing with enormous promise. The pressure and expectations around comparing him to Messi create unnecessary narrative weight, and this weight is something very few players in football history have been able to carry without it affecting their development, confidence, or freedom on the pitch. When a young player is still learning, still experimenting, still discovering his identity in the world's most demanding sport, the last thing he needs is to be measured against an all-time great whose achievements stretch across decades. Every dribble, every touch, every misstep starts to feel like part of a larger debate rather than simply a moment in a young footballer's growth. For someone as young as Yamal, the pressure becomes intensified when every highlight reel is followed by questions not about his own style, but about how closely it mirrors the movement of a legend who shattered records and lifted football to new dimensions. This comparison, though flattering on the surface, creates a storm of expectations that can cloud the player's own journey, making every match feel like a test he didn't sign up for. The narrative weight also builds a mental environment where mistakes become magnified far beyond their real significance. A missed chance becomes a headline, a poor game becomes a controversy, and even a small injury becomes a reason for panic among fans who fear the next Messi successor might fade too soon. It becomes less about Yamal's natural progression and more about whether he fits into the predetermined mould that outsiders are trying to force upon him. And when the world constantly watches with the Messi comparison already in mind, the joy of playing, the joy that fuels creativity and risk-taking can slowly begin to fade under the pressure of living up to a legacy crafted by a once-in-a-lifetime genius. This narrative weight doesn't just affect the player, it affects the club as well. Barcelona has always prided itself on developing unique talents, each with their own characteristics and contributions, but when the Messi comparison spreads like wildfire, it distorts the expectations placed on the coaching staff and the academy. Fans start expecting miracles, defenders start targeting the youngster differently, and opponents treat him not as a rising prospect but as a symbol of the next era. It adds layers of scrutiny that complicate his growth on both the tactical and emotional fronts. Coaches must navigate the delicate balance between nurturing his confidence and shielding him from the external noise, while teammates must learn to support him not as a Messi replacement, but as the young talent he truly is. At the same time, comparisons risk reducing Yamal's own brilliance to a checklist, rather than a celebration of what makes him special. Instead of appreciating his unique dribbling rhythm, his spatial intelligence, his unpredictable creativity, the conversation shifts toward whether he has Messi's finishing, Messi's acceleration, Messi's decision-making. It becomes an unfair equation where the player is judged not on his current achievements, but on how close he is to replicating milestones that took decades to build. Yamal deserves the freedom to explore his own style, to make mistakes without them becoming narratives, and to grow into a player defined not by someone else's shadow, but by his own rising light. Yamal is already producing standout performances that hint at long-term superstar potential, and the way he carries himself on the pitch is nothing short of remarkable for someone so young. Every time he steps onto the field, there's a sense that something special is about to happen, a spark of unpredictability that can change the game in an instant. Defenders who have faced him at youth levels are often left bewildered by his agility, speed and intelligence, while senior players find themselves adjusting on the fly to a talent that seems to anticipate the flow of the match before it even unfolds. These standout performances aren't just about scoring goals or dazzling with dribbles, though he does both with flair. They're about the complete package: vision, positioning, awareness, and an innate ability to influence the rhythm of the game. What makes it even more impressive is his consistency. Unlike many young talents who shine sporadically and then disappear under pressure, Yamal is delivering week after week, match after match, showing that his talent isn't a flash in the pan but the foundation of something far bigger. His long-term superstar potential is also rooted in the versatility he brings to the game. He isn't confined to one position or style. He can drift wide, cut inside, link up with teammates or take on defenders in isolation, all with a calmness that belies his age. This adaptability is crucial at the highest level, where opponents constantly adjust tactics to neutralise threats, and the best players find ways to break through regardless of the system. Yamal's understanding of space, timing and decision-making allows him to make an impact in multiple ways, which is why coaches and analysts alike are already talking about his ceiling as being extraordinarily high. When a young player shows this level of football IQ along with technical brilliance, it signals that the trajectory isn't just promising, it's exponential. Every match becomes a learning experience, a laboratory where he experiments, refines, and enhances his skill set, and the results are immediately visible to anyone watching closely. The mental aspect of his performances cannot be understated either. High-level football is as much about psychology as it is about physical ability, and Yamal demonstrates an impressive balance of confidence and humility. He attacks the game with fearless intent, but he also shows an awareness of his limits, knowing when to slow the pace or involve teammates, which is a trait often absent in younger players who rely purely on talent. This mental maturity enables him to handle pressure situations, maintain composure under intense scrutiny, and respond to challenges without being overwhelmed. It's the kind of mental framework that allows a player to evolve from being a promising youngster to a true superstar capable of carrying a team through difficult moments and high-stakes matches. Even in high-profile appearances, where the spotlight is blinding and expectations are monumental, Yamal rises to the occasion. He has the rare ability to turn pressure into performance, to transform a high-pressure environment into a stage for brilliance rather than a trap. Observers can see flashes of instinctive genius reminiscent of football legends, but what's more remarkable is that these flashes are accompanied by disciplined play, tactical understanding, and a drive to improve that makes his future potential nearly limitless. It is in these standout moments, the perfectly timed run, the creative assist, the composed finish, that the football world begins to recognise not just a talented player, but a star in the making, someone whose performances are already whispering promises of greatness to come. The focus shifts from next Messi to celebrating Yamal as a unique and generational talent, and this shift is crucial not just for his development, but for the way football fans, pundits, and even young players approach talent in the modern game. For decades, comparisons to legends like Messi have dominated narratives whenever a promising player emerges, creating expectations that are often impossible to meet. It's natural for fans to look for parallels, to crave a familiar storyline, but when the discussion centres on replication rather than originality, it risks overshadowing what makes a new talent genuinely remarkable. Yamal's case is a perfect example of why this perspective needs to change. While the hype of next Messi grabs headlines and fuels debates, the reality is that Yamal possesses qualities that are entirely his own, qualities that can define a new era of football at Barcelona and beyond. By celebrating him as a unique talent, attention shifts to his creativity, decision-making, and instinctive understanding of the game, all elements that make him special without forcing him into someone else's mould. From the moment he first emerged at Masia, Yamal demonstrated a combination of technical brilliance, vision, and composure that immediately set him apart. He doesn't just replicate moves seen from other stars, he invents them, adapts them to the situation at hand, and executes them with confidence that belies his age. His dribbling isn't merely flashy, it's purposeful, designed to open space, create opportunities, and destabilise defences in ways that feel organic rather than rehearsed. His passing is precise, his movement intelligent, and his awareness of his teammates and opposition alike is extraordinary for someone still in their teenage years. These traits form a foundation for a player who can influence games at the highest level while remaining distinctly himself, and this is exactly what Barcelona needs in a new generation: innovators, creators, and visionaries rather than copies of legends. Celebrating Yamal as his own player also allows the football community to appreciate the journey he is on, the obstacles he has overcome, and the mental strength he has cultivated. Every young star faces pressure, criticism, and setbacks, but the added burden of being compared to Messi could have derailed even the most talented prospects. By moving the conversation away from replication and toward recognition of his own achievements, fans and analysts encourage Yamal to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth, rather than as tests against an impossible standard. It creates an environment where creativity is nurtured, mistakes are seen as part of learning, and every success is celebrated for what it truly represents: the emergence of a remarkable individual talent. This shift also has a cultural impact within Barcelona itself. The club has always prided itself on developing players who embody its philosophy, but each generation must find its own identity. Yamal represents that identity for his generation, a player whose style, mindset and skill set reflect both the tradition of the club and a fresh approach to modern football. By focusing on him as a unique talent, the narrative evolves from one of pressure and comparison to one of inspiration and possibility. It signals to other young players that greatness does not mean imitation, and it reminds the world that legends are defined by individuality, not replication. Fans, coaches, and analysts alike are beginning to recognise that this approach isn't just kinder to the player, it's smarter for the sport. When attention shifts to celebrating originality, it highlights innovation, encourages creativity, and cultivates a richer footballing culture. Yamal's rise, viewed through this lens, is not about filling a gap left by Messi, but about opening a new chapter. A chapter where a young player can define his own legacy, influence games in unprecedented ways, and inspire the next generation to value uniqueness, talent, and individuality above comparisons and shadows. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe.